Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a very quick breakdown on some of the newly shown images in the Wonderfest catalogue of this year. We have our first look at the official, completed Studio Series Devastator, courtesy of this brand new catalogue. Now, we are more than likely going to be getting in-hand images of the actual product later in the day when the figure actually goes into the booths. However, this is just my first initial thoughts and feelings on the officially shown product in this catalogue. Now, the most noticeable thing about this is that we can actually see the completed Devastator in its entirety with its correct colouring. We can see Scrapper's arm, and I've got to say that Scrapper's arm looks fantastic. Definitely a lot better than the Scrap Metal and Hightower combo, and I think that the colour scheme looks really, really well done. We also get our first look at a colorized version of Overload, actually situated within the torso, and we can see that that figure is going to be absolutely huge and really is going to be the vital element in pulling all of the main essential limbs of Devastator together. Now, in this particular image, they do have him stood in a rather upright pose, which isn't necessarily too movie accurate, which is why I think that he looks slightly odd. However, I do still think he looks really, really well done, and if you do have this figure within a crouched pose, I think he's going to look absolutely fantastic on the shelf. I think Overload's colour scheme really does match the overall look of the Devastator ensemble incredibly well, and as I stated, Scrapper is definitely a huge surprise to me. When we first got images of the blue and purple prototypes, I didn't really think that they looked too great, to be honest with you, but looking at it here in this colorized format, they all look really well done, and Overload definitely looks the most natural when bringing all of the Devastator limbs together. We can see in the center of Devastator's chest that we can clearly see Overload's head sculpt just rotated around. However, it doesn't bother me too much, as seeing as it is rotated around, it does blend into the rest of the robot mode kibble, and that is also something that we saw on Hightower where his head was visible, so there really isn't much they could do there. Overload will also in fact include a cement chamber mixer, which does have some fantastic green highlights, obviously to showcase when Devastator is in fact vacuuming up all of the debris, and we can see that that will in fact clip on top of Mixmaster's head, so we can definitely see that the head will be slightly larger than just the regular Voyager class Mixmaster, which I do think makes the figure look a lot better and definitely a lot more movie accurate. However, personally for me, I don't think that Devastator is the main centerpiece of these particular images, as we actually do have official images of both Scrapper and Overload in their individual robot mode. Taking a look at Voyager class Scrapper first, we can see that this is really based on that brief sequence that we see Overload in within the Revenge of the Fallen movie, which I'm so thankful for, as I was actually a huge fan of how Scrapper briefly looked when he appeared in the Revenge of the Fallen film. We can see here that his alt mode is very consistent with the rest of the Constructicon vehicles and definitely does look very faithful to a real life construction vehicle. However, for me, it is the robot mode that really appeals to me. Much like all of the Studio Series figures, this guy definitely looks as if though he's going to be packing some incredible detail and really faithful movie on-screen accuracy. We can see that he does in fact have the pincer-like claws on one arm. He has this huge weapon on his arm as well, which I guess could act as an almost mace slash whip like we saw in the film. I think the colour scheme looks great, the proportions look really well done, and overall I'm just so happy that Hasbro decided to go with a direct on-screen movie approach rather than basing it on some vivid concept art and perhaps some of their own visual interpretation. This figure looks really, really great, and as I stated, he looked great in his limb mode, the vehicle mode looks great, and the robot mode looks fantastic. I will be breaking these down into more detail when we actually get in-hand images of these figures later during the day, so definitely stick around for that video. This is just my mere brief impressions on some of these catalogue shown images. And then taking a look at the third and final figure to be released is of course the final Constructicon Leader Class Overload, and quite personally I could not be happier with this new release by Hasbro. If you'll recall, when I did some coverage on that Devastator prototype, I did really hope that they would harken back to some of the really awesome concept designs that they did do for Overload before he was scrapped in from the Revenge of the Fallen film, and this definitely appears as if though it will be based directly on that concept art. We have multiple different tendrils for Overload, all looking incredibly menacing. I really love the colour scheme on the character, and the claws all to me seem to be rather unique in their design, so that is great to see. It really does look as if though it's going to be a huge figure, and just looking at the back, it does appear that perhaps he will in fact have a third leg that will actually situate behind the front two legs. So once again, a very, very cool design, and if that is the look that we get for the figure in robot mode, I honestly cannot wait to see it. Once again, we'll have more details once we get in-hand images of these figures, but as it stands as of now, this looks really well done. I think his alt mode looks fantastic. The cement mixer chamber that will plug onto Devastator's head does look rather obscure, just hanging out on the back of Overload's vehicle mode. However, I'm sure you can detach that, and once again, it is an accessory for Mixmaster, so I couldn't really see how they would incorporate it into Overload. So that was my very brief thoughts and analysis video on some of the newly shown Devastator components, as well as our first look at a final colorized figure. Once again, be sure to stay tuned for a video later on today showcasing all of these characters in hand, as I'm sure we'll get some in-hand images of these figures at the Wonderfest booth. So once again, stay tuned for that, and be sure to let me know what you think of these newest reveals and the colorized Devastator below. Thanks for watching.